This is the era of dad rock.
1992 is the year Nirvana's world dominance became apparent, and therefore the dawn of dad rock, right?
Dude, no, this is the dawn of dad rock. The MP3 file format.
We're the new dad rock.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, this is actually the birthplace of the new dad rock too, man, because the MP3 file format is developed as part of a video compression standard. And, man, if there wasn't music online, there'd be no new dad rock.
Two college radio DJs during the 90s, hosts Keith and Steve, helped expose bands like Nirvana, Pavement, and PJ Harvey. They went to shows, interviewed musicians, and reviewed albums for various zines and papers. They worked security at concerts, and once even did load-in for Fish. Now they're dads. Whether you want to explore lesser-known music or take a trip down memory lane, tune into the new dad rock. Join hosts Keith and Steve as they navigate the ages together, sharing their love of music across various eras and genres. Always well-intentioned, often well-informed, seldom boring. The new dad rock will expand your mind.
The most important part about 1992 is the fact that you and I saw GWAR.
No way.
So we saw GWAR at, I think it was called the Ritz. That it was like on 57th Street,
Dude,
right?
Yeah. The Ritz.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember the opening band was Falafel Mafia. And it was 4th of July weekend. So the guy had like a pointy mohawk, and on the tip of each mohawk was a little tiny American flag.
Aww. Oh my god. Wait. Is their song For Boot Night?
Yes. For Boot Night.
I think...
A few years ago, I actually found their album on like SoundCloud or one of those. Like,
thank God for MP3s.
It exists. Yeah, exactly. So thank God for MP3s and the fact that they exist. But not only was it was like 4th of July weekend, but it was also 1992, which was a year of a presidential election. Hate to bring up those feelings so close after the election. But 1992, I remember. Do you remember this? GWAR came out. They beheaded George H.W. Bush, they beheaded Bill Clinton, and they beheaded Ross Perot, and their blood and guts sprayed all across the crowd.
Oh, okay. So, wait, just for everyone, GWAR's from Richmond, Virginia, and they dressed up in these ginormous monster suits that spew blood everywhere, which is red water, I imagine. Because we were front row, dude. I remember, we got front row.
And the fake blood and other bodily fluids that they launch at you was actually just cold water. So in middle of July, at the horde being pressed up against the stage, we wanted that blood because it was cold water pouring down on us.
So GWAR, oh, by the way, I saw 2 other shows that summer. So this is a mammoth summer for me. So I'd seen very important shows like Depeche Mode and Erasure at Jones Beach, but I don't think I really saw that much otherwise, unless there was something my first year at college. But this is my first summer back from college, 1992. And I not only went to Lollapalooza 2, which I'm sure we've discussed many, many times, but I also saw another show up in like the mid-New York area, just south of Central Park at the Academy, which I want to say was on 48th, but 56 could also work. And check out this lineup. I saw Arrested Development, Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy, Live, and Me Fi Me.
That's pretty impressive.
And wow, 92, I was thinking, I was listening to some of the songs. It might be the year that produced like the most rock music I listened to, meaning I listened to the most amount of bands, diversity of rock bands. And by rock bands, I mean guitar bands.
I mean, how could you not, like, looking at the diversity of albums that came out? So you had the original 80s alternative bands, like R.E.M. came out with Automatic for the People. The Gin Blossoms were that new alternative era coming through. And then there was a bunch of classic rock bands that were, at the very tail end of their dominance. So I'm talking about here Eric Clapton Unplugged. So he's, closing in on 20 plus years of superstardom. Bruce Springsteen, he released Lucky Town and Human Touch, and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers' greatest hits album.
But Neil Young had Harvest Moon come out, which was seen generally as the sequel to Harvest. And I actually what's the big song off that? I was just listening to it this afternoon.
I think it's the title track, I Want to Be With You on This Harvest Moon.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, so Stone Temple Pilots, so when I drive between Philly and Long Island, I'll listen to the radio. And there was two bands they played two songs of. One was Shabuzi, the same song, Tipsy. And then the other one was freaking Stone Temple Pilots. And it was two different songs. I think it was Plush and then another one.
I remember just when Stone Temple Pilots came out, and I was like, they're just Pearl Jam ripoffs. They're
LA Pearl Jam. Totally, dude. Totally.
They were the second generation of that Nirvana Pearl Jam and to me, right away, I thought they were imposters.
For sure. Here's the thing, though. How do you feel about Pearl Jam now? And I bring this up in the context of Oasis getting back together.
This is what I think. There's a quote from the movie Zoolander that
Yeah.
Owen Wilson's character says, Hansel. He goes, Sting, I don't really listen to his music, but I'm glad that he's there. I kind of feel that way about Pearl Jam.
Totally.
Like, I saw them on I want to say it was like the No Code tour, like in 96 or so on Randall's Island. I appreciate that they're there, man. I get the jokes when, he's mumbling and, if you're having a bad day, just think about this.
I feel Pearl Jam is to me like Modest Mouse is to someone else or Pavement, where they're like, they think it sounds like between like 2 or 3 songs and all the songs are the same. And that's how Pearl Jam sounds to me, all the songs, besides the ones that I grew up with, like, the first 2 albums. And, but I guarantee Modest Mouse must sound like that to someone too, who doesn't like Modest Mouse, and Pavement too. Like, there's some bands that all sound the same. Maybe that's what makes the band sound. But anyway, the Pearl Jam sound is kind of like a black box to me, and I really don't get inside of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's dad rock, and I think it's our misunderstanding of why that's popular that led us to create the new dad rock.
For sure.
And, we've talked about a lot of the things that were popular in 1992. What did we actually listen to in 1992? It was none of this, right?
Besides Tears in Heaven, because it was on all the time.
Well, you couldn't help but listen to that. It wasn't your own doing.
Totally. Okay, so the first song on the playlist when I search it up is Beastie Boys, So What You Want. So what you want. So check your head, man. Or at least what you want.
Keep in mind, back then, the Beastie Boys were a little bit persona non grata because ill communication.
Paul's Boutique.
License to Ill came out, and they were a huge hit.
Totally.
And then Paul's Boutique came out,
Ooh.
And while it had some fans, it was not a popular hit. And that was 1989. So now we're talking about 92. It's 3 years later. No one's even thought about the Beastie Boys. And it's like, oh, they learned how to play instruments. Meanwhile,
they already had, yeah.
Meanwhile, they originated as a punk band, not as a rap band. But nonetheless, Check Your Head comes out. Doesn't sound anything like it. But I think it was a slow build for that album. But I definitely listened to that. And I will still listen to that. If it came on tomorrow, my nieces and nephew danced to that album. So it's...
Oh, that's awesome.
But other things from 92 that we're listening to, and I guess this is that whole left of the dial, the college radio, but the alternative being closer to the mainstream because the axis was being twisted by Pearl Jam and Nirvana. But the Afghan Whigs Congregation, I remember Brian McNamara sent you a blank tape. It was like a 90-minute or 110-minute tape, and it was white. It was like a white Maxell cassette. And I remember it had all these awesome albums on it, or all these awesome songs. And there were 2 or 3 songs from Afghan Whigs Congregation. And I was like, this band I have to get to know.
That's when you heard Afghan Whigs for the first time?
Yes.
Wow.
And I remember it was a Maxell cassette that Brian McNamara, who was a radio DJ at his college, right?
Yep.
At
Virginia Tech. Mm-hmm.
He had sent it to you. That was on there. I'm trying to think what else might have been on there. I mean, some of the Sonic Youth songs from Dirty
for sure
that year.
For sure.
Therapy Nurse. Some of those songs
huge
are probably on there.
Two of my favorite, are they math rock? Or they were called math rock, but
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, Thermal Treasure, which is the first or second song off Paul Vo's Today's Active Lifestyles. And though it's a year later, but Drive Like Jay, who's Yank Crime, Do You Compute song. Those 2 songs epitomize this sound of, I don't know what it was, repetition. It was kind of like, it was guitar based, but it sounded the closest to, I don't know, like electronic music, because it's just repetitive. Actually, Paul Vo is just insane. I I don't even know what was going on.
It didn't sound like music, but it was in some weird key, so it did make sense in the end.
Yeah.
But to the uninitiated ear, which myself included,
We were early and young.
It just made no sense, but there was something about it that was compelling, and I really liked it. And I think that alludes to the discordant times that we are living in. Remember, we had, the end of the Gulf War.
Oh my God.
We had gone from
Is this Clinton running for president?
This is exactly when it happened. So we had 12 years of,
Reagan, Bush,
and then Bush.
Wow.
And then now we've
and Thatcher.
We've switched from a New World Order, to quote a famous Ministry song from that year, into
totally.
the 8 years of Clinton. So there was a lot of tumult in the air, and there was a lot of discordant sounds. And I'll give you a couple examples on a totally wide end of the spectrum to compare to Polvo. So Radiohead Creep, you remember? It was just like a regular, nice little ballady song.
Really
and then all of a sudden that wail of feedback comes in. And it's just totally discordant, out of place, but defined the times perfectly.
Dude.
And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have Faith No More, who the world was waiting for after Epic, after the Real Thing album came out with multiple hits. What were they going to do? And they come out with Angel Dust, which I love. It's my favorite album.
It is my favorite album by them, for sure.
But it is not an easy listen to. There's distortion. There's serial killers.
Yeah, I don't listen to the whole album in a row.
It's insane. There's cheerleaders gone awry. A redneck singing about his living in an RV, and another song about a midlife crisis. It's just discordant.
That's amazing.
And I think the final one that I would throw in there, and this album was huge, and I mean huge that it inspired an entire genre. But Psalm 69, The Way to Succeed and The Way to Suck Eggs by Ministry.
Did that have New World Order on it, like you said before?
Yeah. That album defined industrial metal.
I'm actually going to listen to that later today. That's amazing.
Sticking with that theme, in 2024, Ministry released an album.
Yeah, I actually read about this in a guitar magazine, because the guitarist who used to play with Madonna is his guitarist now. One of my favorite things from this day, from 1992, is Ice Cube put out "It Was a Good Day," and I don't know if you know this at all. But basically, like, there was someone who actually tried to prove the exact day the song is about. Have you ever heard this before?
No, this is news to me.
Are you serious?
Was it a Friday?
I don't know. No, it should have been, though, if it was The Cure. But no, it's literally like he talks about, like, I don't know, is it the Lakers winning or the Clippers winning, like a shooting happening? And it's just awesome that someone works with this, because it was like Yo MTV Raps was on the air. It was a clear and smogless day. Beepers were commercially sold. The Lakers beat Supersonics, and Ice Cube had no events to attend. So it lays out like this whole argument why it was this very specific day. And then I'm like, yeah, but like I figure it probably could be other days too. And he was just putting days together. But I like the dedication to the craft.
Yeah, there are a number of books about trying to place the exact events of Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow, and they've narrowed it down to like a 2-week period during World War II.
Interesting.
But
he doesn't have to just stay consistent. Neither does Ice Cube, right? Like they don't have to stay consistent.
No, that's the thing. It's
totally.
Fiction.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's there's artistic license. It doesn't have to be 100%. Like you could have a comedy routine, and just because you're saying something happened in your life, it doesn't mean it had to happen exactly that way, because you're making a joke. No one's expecting it to be. Anyway,
all right. Speaking of stupid ideas, you ever hear Railroad Jerk?
Do, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then now called Raise the Plow 1992.
I bet that at least a song or two was on that white tape from Brian that I.
Oh, 100%.
White tape.
Yeah, and I'm willing to bet they're probably from Virginia, North Carolina, or like thereabouts. So I listened to it again like a month ago, just because I was like, I remember having this album, like one of those albums you buy for $3.99 or $2.99, the used bin. So someone had bought it for $8 or $10, right, and sold it back, and now you were buying it for like $3 or $4. And yeah, I don't really listen to it back then. I listen to it again now. You know, like you used to have to buy albums to hear music. So I probably have 10 to 20 or a couple dozen of like these CDs I bought in 1992 that were bands that I'd heard of. There's a song off a cassette that we were given. Maybe you read about them somewhere, but you actually have to buy the CD to hear them. Because our college radio,
I remember
guess.
you some upfront or forward-thinking record stores, you could listen. They would have a listening room, like maybe two stereos with headphones. You could listen, but you couldn't be in there very long.
Yeah, I wasn't very good at that either. Yeah,
I started to get sketchy with that.
Totally.
Yeah. So yes. So keeping with the theme of the fact that we were way off the mainstream with what we were listening to, but these bands, I think, are still somehow managed to get pretty close to the mainstream.
Pavement has a movie now.
Pavement has a movie. So yeah, Slanted and Enchanted came out in 1992.
What? Oh, that's amazing. We didn't hear it in 92, did we? I doubt it.
It was probably, if it wasn't 92, it was very early into 93.
Sure. We were living together. Well, I think so.
So Summer Babe.
That is 92, 93.
Here, In the Mouth of Desert.
Oh, yeah.
Songs.
For sure.
You know, Sue Me Drac, You're a Skyscraper. I remember those B-sides even. And then wasn't the Watery Domestic EP out that year as well? I feel like the first thing I ever heard by Pavement was Watery Domestic, which is a 4-song EP with Texas Never Whispers, Frontwards, Feed 'Em to the Linden Lions, and Shoot the Singer. And Frontwards, for some reason, I think is the first Pavement song I ever heard. That album came out in November of 92.
Dude, that's the first Pavement song I could play on guitar, Frontwards.
Could you play it backwards as well?
I don't think you're supposed to. They tell you what to do.
Yeah. So that is, you know, that. So if Pearl Jam is dad rock, Pavement is the new dad rock, and if Versus,
oh my god, it's like old new dad rock though.
Exactly. This is the new. It's the alternative to the alternative. So alternative got big in the early 90s.
It's like classic new dad rock.
We're twisting it another 45 degrees. So
yes,
we're
in three-dimensional music space now. Okay,
exactly.
Something we have not mentioned. So I was talking about the breadth, the so much different kinds of rock-based music, but like, didn't Rage Against the Machine's album come out that year?
It did, but I don't know that anybody knew about it because it was a November release.
Yeah,
and I think it took a little bit of time to get going.
Sure,
but Helmet, Unsung, Screaming Trees, Nearly Lost You. That sound was Faith No More, Angel Dust. I think that sound was right there. So Rage Against the Machine, it probably took a little while to bubble up, but I just remember that as the album of 1993. Dude. So we can talk about that next time. But what I do remember spending it.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Did you just say the Rage Against the Machine album, their debut, was the number one album in 1993, but it came out in 92?
That's that in my mind it was.
Wow. I know. I 100% believe you. No.
Stats
No. I've talked about this before. I was just actually using this as a very fine example of I don't really like the way the years are divided because back then music took so long to develop, right? Like 6 months to a year. You had to like go on tour. You had to get it on the radio. You'd have a couple singles, and you wouldn't put out singles before. Now what happens is you put out music right away. You get feedback right away. You put out 3-4 singles before your album even comes out these days. So it's a totally different delivery of new music from a band.
Well, to put it this way, the album came out on November 3rd, and the hit single Killing in the Name, which obviously wasn't a single because you couldn't play it anywhere in public, came out on November 2nd. So one day prior, Killing in the Name is out.
It's nothing.
Rage Against the Machine comes out. Bullet in the Head, their next single, December 29th. Bomb Track, June 20th, and Freedom, August 23rd. So I have a feeling that somewhere between
second and third
December
release.
29th and into May or June
was when we heard them, and everyone heard them.
And then all of a sudden they're like, shit, we need to get another single out there. And that's why Bomb Track is released on June 20th. And that went off, like A House on Fire.
Dude.
And then so they released Freedom in August of that year. So there's a 6-month gap in between while all of a sudden the record company's like, wait a minute, this band's a hit. So we'll get back into 92.
Well, the only reason I bring this up is because I was about to say that 92 is the year that has my first top 10 Desert Island album on it, and it's the Rage Against the Machine album. So I was about to say, like, the New Dad Rock's best year was 92, but it might be 93, 94. I haven't looked ahead.
If you want to circle all the way back to episode 3 or 4 when we talked about the origins, I think it was our radio show, Radio Static, was that 93 or was that even the spring of 94?
Spring of 94.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is the foundational blocks, and we're talking about a year that saw Guns N' Roses selling out huge stadiums.
Oh my God! Yeah, totally
was
did.
The biggest video.
I love
on
that.
TV.
Oh, I had that
you
tape.
You had the Freddie Mercury tribute concert. You had the Bob Dylan tribute concert at Madison Square Garden. And you have the Bodyguard soundtrack coming out and Madonna's Erotica. Like, that's what's happening in the mainstream. Then in the alternative world, you have Nirvana's World Domination and Pearl Jam not far behind them. But us fickler personas found the new dad rock. And, we were listening to PJ Harvey Dry. We were listening to Primus Miscellaneous Debris. And everyone was listening to
Jump Around, Jump Around, Jump, Jump, Jump Around by the House of Pain, right?
That and No Rain by Blind Melon.
Oh, I see.
So huge. Whitney Houston.
Oh my God. Miley's dad had Achy Breaky Heart in 92. Speaking of dads.
It's insane. It makes you so crazy that you want to rip up a picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live.
Oh my God. Oh, Crisscross had Jump.
Jump for my love.
Jump it. Actually, I don't think that's the one it is.
The Daddy Rock will make ya. Jump. The Crisscross will make ya.
Yeah, jump, totally. Let's see. R.E.M., one of their great songs, like Drive came out in 92.
Maybe their last great song.
Oh, actually, What's the Frequency, Kenneth, actually was the punctuation mark in that. You were like, that could be good. And then Bones comes out in 92 by Alice. Man on the Moon by R.E.M., so I think that almost proves the point. No Rain, like you said. Hey, all right, let's play a game. Name the artist of this song, 1992. Be Quick or Be Dead.
Iron Maiden.
Okay. Well, I'll give you an easy one. Plush.
Stone Temple Pilots.
Okay. Remedy.
Black Crowes.
Very good. Okay. This one's going to be hard. There's no way you get this one. Wait. I'm looking. Okay. Halftime. It's Nas. Okay. Keep the Faith. Okay.
What is that? I know that one.
It's Bon Jovi. I'm sorry. Okay. Let me give you
okay.
something you might actually know. Nothing But a G Thing.
Dr. Dre.
Nice. Friday I'm in Love.
The Cure.
Okay. Ain't Too Proud to Beg, where the twos are numbers. It's a 3-letter acronym.
Boys to Men?
No, TLC. No, you did that. No blame. That was good. That was very good. All right. Oh, you know what it is? 92 is the year where I totally diverged from the mainstream. So as much as I was just messing with you there, and I know these songs, I didn't listen to them. Like when I was younger, I definitely listened to way more like Casey Kasem's, like you said. This is where I totally go off on my own and don't listen to any popular music.
When the most popular stuff that you're listening to is Faith No More,
R.E.M. and R.E.M.
Yeah. Pavement had a little bit of a brush with the mainstream a couple years later.
I don't think I'm listening to them till later. Like
yeah, Blind Melon. I think that was another song that I think took time to grow. I think it was more like a '93 story. And ironically, that band, their second album, nobody paid attention to, and it was freaking amazing. So,
which this might be the year that has the most New Dad Rock episodes like based in, or at least like bands. Like the amount of bands, Afghan Whigs, Blind Melon. We've Pavement.
Have we even mentioned PJ Harvey, whose debut Dry came out?
And we had an episode. No, we haven't. But we also have an episode or two about PJ Harvey. Yeah. Man, this is the birth of our episodes. This is like when we're really connecting together.
I know, and we're like there was so much to talk about that we didn't even mention John Frusciante of the Red Hot Chili Peppers leaving the band. Like they were one of the biggest bands of the era, and he left, so they had to digitally.
But he came back
to the cover of Rolling Stone.
Oh,
years later, but
they could do digital back in '92. That's awesome.
It probably cost a lot of money.
Oh my god! You imagine how long it took too. Well, I guess you're just erasing. That's probably one of the easier activities. Yeah, but yeah, I'm sure it took forever.
Pixel by pixel.
Totally, it was totally by pixel.
Looking back 30 plus years into 1992, we see a great evolution happening in music that I don't think we've seen. The change from the late 80s, from even 90 to 92, was a bigger change in style and popularity and genres and proliferation that I don't think we've seen in the 30 years hence.
Yeah, I agree, but I also wonder if it's our like intimate knowledge of that era, because like you do have rap coming like following like their first hits last year. So that's pretty amazing. You have country music. Billy Ray Cyrus is making popular music. The depth of what indie rock or college rock or alternative rock. So maybe it was college radio stations that was the big deal. I don't know.
You're watching the Mobius strip of music turning inside of itself. So I mentioned Ministry. You look at their album from 1992 and you look at their album from 2024, and you wouldn't even tell that, almost 30 years or over 30 years has elapsed in between. You listen to the Hard Quartet, Stephen Malkmus's new supergroup,
totally.
Compared to what he was doing. Okay, maybe not in 92, but in 94 and 95, it's not far off. So
actually might be closer to the latter. I mean, the earlier time period, like you said. Wow.
Yeah. That's we talked about in last week's episode with our special guest, Achtung Baby, U2's playing that in its entirety at the Sphere.
Yeah. So, wow. The Mobius strip of time. It's like being a parent. Once a parent, always a parent. Yeah, that's a parent.
It's eating its own tail like the Ouroboros.
Okay. Well, thank you for surfing 1992 with us. The summer of 1992, I had my best job ever. I was I worked at an amusement park on Long Island called Adventureland. They made a movie about it. And I worked the bumper boats. Bumper boats. Dude, so we'd be so bored. Like, it's a circular thing. And there's a fucking tube around this thing. And you drive around this little pond. But you'd have to, like, drive it in. And I was the guy who'd, like, get you and hook the boat up. So every once in a while, you were bored, so you'd miss hooking it up. So then the thing would start spinning around in the middle, and you'd have to jump onto it. Or you'd have to take another bumper boat out and grab it live like a rodeo. And we would do that.
You had to jump. The Daddy Mac would make you jump.
And if you miss, you were wet. Summer of 92.
Crying like after The Bodyguard.
It was the summer of 92.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you weren't on too much angel dust.
No, not at all.
And all those days there was no rain.
Yeah, that's how I made it here.
All right. Well, 1992. The fermentation of the New Dad Rock, 1990.